We become what we eat. Hello, invisible friends. I'm Logo, and I want to share with you the logical steps we can take if we have a major illness and how to face it without neglecting the treatments and recommendations of your doctors. This decision is very important and will depend on the level of awareness we have about what food is. Remember that we are built from what has fed us. It seems obvious, but we do not think about it when we are healthy and we fill ourselves with unpronounceable substances that we know do not contribute anything or very little to the nutrition of our cells. How to better choose our ability to nourish ourselves properly if we often do not know what can contribute essentially to our body. The foods or basic nutrients for our body are classified into the following groups: fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are divided into simple and complex. The simple ones are sugars alone or twinned with other sugars. An example: the union of fructose and sucrose in a fruit. These sugars are interconnected. Remember that sugars are absorbed very quickly into the body. The complex ones are starches and soluble and insoluble fibers. Starches are composed of chains of simple sugars like glucose, so their sugar is absorbed more slowly because enzymes must act to break these sugar chains and convert it into a simple sugar. Fibers are the most important probiotics. Without them, our oral and intestinal microbiota would stop functioning properly. Soluble carbohydrates are those that react with our enzymes and are the ones that nourish and enrich the intestine the most. The insoluble ones provide extremely important fiber to correctly structure the feces. In this way, our intestine with peristaltic movements can do the work of properly transporting our excrement. Proteins, in a nutshell, are chains of amino acids. These proteins must be broken down to become amino acids. These, when reorganized, form the matter of all our tissues. Proteins are vital for the immune system. When forming tissues, they have structural functions up to the cell membranes. They allow us to transport oxygen, motor functions, hormonal, etc. Very important, our body uses 20 amino acids, of which 9 are essential. That is, if we do not eat them, we cannot synthesize them. Fats or fatty acids are divided into saturated and unsaturated and synthesized, or called trans. The human being needs fatty acids, particularly those called omega-3 and omega-6. Since both are essential, fatty acids are not synthesized in the body to supply the organic demand. Therefore, they must be consumed properly to maintain the balance always favorable to omega-3. There are products that are everywhere and they present them naturally. And some are not even considered food but condiments. So there are no regulations on their consumption. That happens with white sugar or sucrose. There are no warnings of side effects or how much should really be consumed, even though they do harm after a limit. The proteins we consume make our tissues, but it is not that easy. Every protein must be broken down and become simple amino acids to in turn regroup into our own proteins at a specific time in a specific place with specific conditions to create a specific tissue as well. It is not the same to make bone tissue as to make muscle tissue. Every tissue formation requires a specific and mandatory combination of amino acids. Remember that essential amino acids must be taken from food since we lack the ability to synthesize that particular group. The body does not manufacture incomplete tissue. It can only be done if it has the group of required amino acids. Things cannot be left for later. It is not like a house where you leave a task for later. An adaptation is to prioritize one group over another. By priority, autophagy can be done and destroy tissues such as muscle to take those amino acids and do the most priority. Suppose we need a combination of the 20 amino acids that we humans have. To make the protein that builds a neuron, no matter how many 14 amino acids we have, we will never be able to make this protein to create that neuron unless we get the 6 missing amino acids. That's how the body works, and there's no other way. Autophagy, or destruction of another tissue that has purpose and used to solve the priority problem, is nothing more than an adaptive survival mechanism, but it is not healthy. Therefore, the best protein for our body is the richest protein, its varied chains of essential amino acids. The most correct is to have a diet of several protein sources of the best possible quality for us. What happens to the incomplete blocks of amino acids that we could not use? All this recycling has an energy cost and is processed through the Krebs cycle in the liver. These amino acids are recombined and finally we convert them into ATP. Imagine that the glucose levels are already correct in the blood, therefore this excess will have to be stored. The way to store or deposit that energy is to convert it into fat tissue with the help of insulin, which is the hormone regulator of glucose levels, depositing it in the cells as well as fats. Thus, both the immediate energy provided by glucose and the energy in the form of fat are stored. Fats or lipids are organic compounds that, due to their small amount of oxygen in their molecule, make them insoluble in water. Example: the wax that protects the ear. The main function of fats in the human body is to be used as a source of energy. Without them, we could not survive even 24 hours without eating. The phospholipids present in cell membranes isolate and protect cells. In turn, they are an important part of the membranes of organs and skin. For neurotransmission, they are an important part of the myelin sheaths. Saturated fats have single bonds in their molecule and are formed by very long chains in their components. This makes them very stable, so they are difficult to oxidize or degrade, such as coconut oil, avocado, and butter. Also, milk and meats are a source of omega. Unsaturated fats contain triglycerides. Triglycerides are the most efficient way to store energy. This is because the molecule is stable and can be stored long-term, and its transformation to glucose is done slowly. Remember that the triglyceride is not soluble in water. If our cells are saturated with them, it will be more difficult for us to hydrate those cells, since the water will cost more to penetrate the cell membranes. Olive oil, very rich in polyphenol, its fats are composed of 73% monounsaturated, 13% saturated, and 11% polysaturated, and the remaining 3% is composed of potassium, sodium, calcium, iron, and vitamins E and K. Unsaponifiable fats do not have fatty acids but a hydrocarbon. Cyclopentanoperhydrofenantreno are lipids and are divided into. From cholesterol, steroids are synthesized. Steroids and terpenes. Hormones such as cholesterol, cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, bile, fat solvent, and vitamins D, E, K, A. Now we have an initial idea of what the things we eat are for. That is why it is very important to classify and understand foods in a general way. This is a first step to begin to see what we are made of. Friends, if you have doubts, remember to ask your trusted doctor about the subject and also do research online. It is your decision to take the steps to move forward. If you like the video and want to help spread this information, remember to click the bell and subscribe to receive more information like this. Remember that step by step we can improve. The worst thing is to do nothing. Invisible friends, see you in the mirror.